Okay, sorry about that. I was muted there and put in a couple things I'm not normally used to. You may have seen in the news lately, there's been some issues with Zoom, people hacking in, doing certain things. Pretty easy to do. Um, that's why I've added in a couple things here to make sure that makes it a little bit more difficult. One is making sure that you have the ID number for the session. Again, all that information is right here in Moodle underneath the weekly office hour Zoom sessions. Instructions for Zoom, you'll see meeting ID, and there's the number for you. Okay. Also, muting and a few other things. Hopefully that'll suffice. Okay. So getting a late start, but got a lot of information. Making sure that you all saw the news. There's a server update notice that went out. So this weekend, beginning on the 15th at 1900 or 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, University of Mount Olive says they're going to migrate some servers to new hosts. So you will not be able to access my UMO or the self-service. They do say, however, you will have access to all of your University of Mount Olive data and services, including Moodle and email. So that tells me there shouldn't be any problems for you. So, I would not wait until the last minute. Certainly, expect the worst. You're never disappointed, right? And go on from there. Okay. With that, we're into chapter 2 of the text tells you that's managing organizational change, and our text is titled different than our course. Our course is leading change. And so I gave you a question last week, discussion question, the difference between management and leadership. Okay, again, coming out of your LDR 300 coursework. And you, if you've had a class with me before, you've seen that question before. I ask it in all my courses to get you thinking through the differences between managing and leading. This is not an exercise in rhetoric. It's not playing semantics. The text does make a point on it in chapter 2. You may have already read it. Excuse me. That said, they don't think it's a big deal. I tend to disagree. I think it is a big deal. We need to know what we're talking about. Words mean things. And so look at what Cotter says in chapter 2. Read that portion carefully. And then read up to about halfway through chapter 3. Certainly read Learning Objective 1, so ELO 1, maybe part of 2, okay? We'll cover the rest of chapter 3 next week. And that will, there are a couple quiz questions from chapter 3, but they're in the first few pages. So again, I think if you read ELO 1, you'll do fine. All right, the discussion questions this week are fun. One of them, there's an exercise to take at the back of chapter 2. It's a series of questions on a Likert scale, which is, if you recall from other coursework, it's answering questions on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, remember when you're looking at these types of exercises where there's a number scale, are you playing basketball or are you playing golf? Okay, what's the difference? Well, of course, in basketball, the higher score wins, right? Generally. In golf, the lower score wins. So in part, make sure you understand what you're measuring and why. And then see how well it closely reflects your views. In this particular case, it runs through the calculations for you to a degree that it's hard for you to influence it straight up. But what we're trying to get at is what of the 6 change images you are. Okay, remember the text tells you that there are two outcomes from change: intended and unintended. And in that, we find there are 6 images, and partially intended. And then there are 6 images: director, coach, caretaker, navigator. And these are images that you're going to be dealing with in your readings over the next some more weeks. So it's now to learn it. Make sure that you understand. Excuse me, pulling out my textbook now. Well, I can't get it. All right, sorry. Make sure you look hard at that chart, that graphic in chapter 2. And be able to draw that, okay? I'm talking about table 2.1. I don't know if you see it. Okay, here at the top of 2.1, all right? And that shows you the 6 images, okay? Director, navigator, coach, caretaker, nurturer. Okay, we're going to set the stage for change. We're going to talk about environmental pressures. We're going to talk about resistance. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And then in chapter 10, 9 and 10, we're going to get into coach, interpreter, director, navigator, okay? Just more organizational development. You'll not be talking really caretaker, nurturer. That's really more a concept within change management and leadership. It speaks for itself. God wasn't changing the word. Really not, so there's not much you can do about it outside of the image. And then use the appropriate tools. There's really not much else to teach about it. But these guys will cover it for you. It's a fascinating way to organize your course. It's unusual. But the key on it is to focus in, understand that there are unintended consequences and intended consequences, and partially intended, of your change action. That there are 6 images. And this quiz at the end of chapter 2, one of your discussion questions, is designed to get a feel for who you are. Okay, I suspect most of you are going to have 1 or 2 that kind of pops out that lead. Otherwise, everybody's going to have about the same even score. And that's good, because that makes you realize that there's a different image that you'll use given the situation, which is what contingency leadership is all about. And which is what is being taught here at the University of Mount Olive. We don't teach that great leaders are born, although it does help to have certain actions that you come by naturally. But if we said that only leaders are born, then there'd be no sense to having this course. Okay, so if we do think that leaders can be made, in other words, we can learn the tools and then become adept at using same, then we would recognize that there are ways that we can influence change. Cotter looks at managing change as those actions on a smaller scale. Okay, leading change, he envisions great strategic directions and visions and the like. Okay, and that fits in what you've been taught to date, and particularly what you're taught in LDR 300. All right, so everybody should have the text. Remember, volume 3, the 3rd edition, Manage Organizational Change. There is substantial differences between edition 3 and the 2nd edition. So if you have the 2nd edition, you got a problem. We need you to get into the new one. Okay, and I don't get kickbacks on textbooks. Universities don't. Adjuncts don't. The reason that textbooks change every couple of years is, quite frankly, to beat the used textbook industry. But that's one man's opinion. In the main, most of your updates are good ones. They should be done. They correct mistakes. They update cases. They bring in more current. They check some of the new theories that might have come out since the last edition. That said, there are changes that are superfluous and really don't even warrant a new edition. But yet the author decided to go that route and is seeking money and recompense because of saying. All right. regardless of what your thoughts are on it, it's it's the deal you're living with, okay? And you can take the risk and not get the textbook, although I really highly discourage that. I actually quite the opposite. I heavily encourage you to get the textbook because of the amount of information that's contained within. All right. So last week, let's take a look at some things. I think this share again, make sure you minimum 2 comments. If you want to leave 5, that's phenomenal. Leave 5. If you want to give 10, that's even better. Give 10. Okay, but at a minimum, comments on 2 other student postings. And this should be more than just the platitude and what you wrote. I disagree completely. All right, that's part of what I do. Quite frankly, and maybe you're a cheerleader. That was slightly a joke, but part of it is these grades were a little higher than the norm. It reflects a new course coming together and us figuring each other out. So it'll probably stabilize over the next couple of weeks. As I've told many of you, if not all of you, the only way you fail my course is if you do not do the work. Okay? If you don't do the work, you don't turn in the assignments for grading, then there's nothing that I can grade and do for you. You may be embarrassed. There may be an exigency. That's not your fault. Your alignment for the county electrical concern, and you're working about an hour away from home down in Manassas. I'm sorry, down in Wilmington, and you can get there right away. I don't believe I put that kind of requirement on. I'm pretty sure I have not. Okay, so we've got a couple here, and seem to be chasing. It's like we're chasing Monroe or Downey Thomas. All right. So we haven't seen the movie, or I haven't seen the movie. Looking forward to it. I think it'll be phenomenal, and I hope for a pleasant experience. Because I'd like to report that back to you. In the same, if you go see it over the weekend, drop me a line. Let me know what you think. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So last year, quiz number 1, I had 6 out of my student body. And yes, I had that many in my student, which was remarkable. But a little less than half of my class didn't even take the final. Okay, 6 people. And so they got all zeros. And some came back and asked to if there's a way to fix that. Early on, there is a way to fix it. But the simple fact remains that I want to see you get after your weight in a reasonable athletic endeavor, one in which you're not ruining yourself for the future. Okay? No reason to take a permanent disability on something that hopefully we could have just kept slightly quiet for a couple more years. All right, hold on just a second. Let me see what I'm dealing with here. Let's see. All right. So again, 6 people didn't take it last year, which caused them a big problem. But over half did take it and scored A minuses and A's. This quiz, I gave you 45 minutes because there was a couple changes to some questions. I thought you would need the time. Turns out you did not need it. A lot of you finished the quiz in 6 minutes, which was very impressive. All right. 8 of you finished the quiz with an 80 or higher, which we landed at. All right. So what happened this year? This year, everybody took it. Thank you very much. Part, I had to remind a couple of you, I think. Certainly you took it after my reminder. So please make sure you look at your deadlines closely when things are due. Okay. And then looks like, so 3 of you scored an A, 3 an A minus. So you had plenty of time. Many of you didn't even take advantage of it. So quiz number 2 for week number 2 is going to drop back to 30 minutes timeline. Okay. See how our comfort level does. All right, again, 0, 1 through 10. It's going to ask you, I think, at some point. Excuse me. Perhaps a quiz question, or not quiz question, but question that was on the quiz. And it's your character to determine how you want to fix it. Okay. Personally, if somebody's spitting around me and wants me to spit, I'm not very inclined to join. Rounding out the rest of the grades, one got a B minus, and looks like a couple of you got C's. So good job all the way around. We don't see any major question issues. Question number 6 was becoming an issue, but one of your fellow students alerted me to it, alerted me to the issue that there was with the question, and how your kindly instructor screwed it up. Obviously, I wasn't a big fan of somebody coming up and correcting me, but in this case, it worked. So, gotta at least be happy about that. Huh? All right. So, we're gonna go ahead and get paired up. I think we may try to look at playing some AC-Doocy maybe. Yeah, we'll see. What color tiles do you want, young lady? Okay. Let's go ahead and finish this up and see where we head. So, question number 6, I had an issue with, so I was alerted, and quite honestly, I did. My mistake. I was redoing some exam questions, and one of your classmates alerted to a problem. So we fixed it in UMO, and 4 of you had already taken the exam, and it regraded. So for 2 of you, that was a good thing. For the other 2 of you, that wasn't a good thing. So because it was my mistake, if you lost points, I added them back. If you gain points, you keep those points. if you took the exam late, I normally penalize for lateness. And in this case, I will not penalize. That's kind of everybody's break. All right. But again, thank you for the overwatch. Thanks for catching the problem. So what question gave us the most problem? Looks like question number 8. So here's the way I work my quizzes. If more than half of you miss a question, I will go back and look at that question. If I agree that there's a problem with it, I will throw it out and I will restore your points. Okay? And the same as if you got it right. But again, that requires more than half of you missing. Now, I'm not sitting here asking you all to tube all your individual quizzes for the next 8 weeks. That would be outrageous. But just to understand, at least take a look at it. So if you got a question on a question, certainly bring it up and we'll talk it out. As it is, question number 8 reads, upper right-hand corner here, which of the following is not a reason that literature on change management makes it difficult to access and absorb? So your old stories on change management, your old textbooks were a lot more involved than this one, and were very difficult to comprehend and read, okay? But if I look here, and this is obviously a chapter 1 question, because that's all we were covering. If I look on page 14 of my text, I could see that there is a 5 reasons that literature, research, and other commentary can be difficult to assess and absorb. Knowing these reasons going in only helps you in your learning. So if you can anticipate that your leadership books will take a multiple of perspectives and you're able to handle that, then you'll do well. If you understand that they'll spread through the concepts, mighty fine. You understand that there are fluid boundaries, not rigid ones. Welcome to the worldview. Now, again, all these that I've just talked about don't do you well, whether you're in a classroom of 200 or a classroom of just 3. Okay. A rich history. Okay. No, history didn't begin with the 1940s, although in some cases I'm convinced people think history started when they first started learning. All right. And go from there. So any questions here on the quiz at all? Okay. Any questions on where we're heading with the course? Now, each of these chapters, if you go into Moodle, you'll find that the PowerPoint slides have already been prepared for you. Okay, let me show you where you'll find those. All right. Change management. Thomas, I got your question. I'll take a look at my other textbook by the time I get to take a look at it. Okay? I suspect you have the new version, which means it is different. And if it is different, then you should go ahead and buy the chapter 3 or the 3rd edition. I do not get payouts. I do not get kickbacks. I gain nothing financially from textbook stores. Okay. In fact, I quite usually try to pick up one if I can, just for my own learning. Okay. So after we look at the information and the images, then it's time for UFO. Now, what we're going to All right, resume share, and off we go. Okay. I don't think there's anything else we could really cover. Oh, I'll put out a notice this week. Your week 8 paper, which is about organizational change, requires you to look at an organization or a company. It could be the church you go to, could be the company you work for, could be the university structure. Regardless, you're to answer some questions on that. So, and cover it in your paper. So, the sooner you identify your company, the more ahead of the game you could get on price level and how things work. All right. So try to do that as best you can, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Again, thanks for joining. This is week 2 of LDR 440, summer first session, and I hope you all had a great night. Take care.